What's up, guys? I want to do a video today on how to learn more about your ascendant sign. But first, I just wanted to remind you that I'm not really an expert in astrology. There are many other people here on YouTube that know a lot more about all the parts of natal chart astrology and other types of astrology than I do. But um, it's one of those things, maybe more so than anything else that I've gotten into, that the more I learn, the more I realize how little I know. I'm 2 years in to in-depth study in astrology and still learning something new every day. But patterns are really emerging for me. There's definitely a coherent nature to the system. It's kind of a system of systems. It can account for itself as well as every part of it. And one thing that I've said this before, but one thing that's very interesting about it from a philosophy of science standpoint is that, if it were all woo-woo, then it would get less accurate the more detail you go into. But in fact, the opposite happens. The more detail you go into, the more specific you get, the more accurate it gets, as well as it does on the general level, too. So it's definitely holding my interest. But no, I'm not an expert, but I do figure out ways to think about different parts of astrology, things that have worked for me, different ways of understanding the certain parts of it that gave me that click, that aha moment once I got it. And so those are some of the things that I want to share with you here when it comes to astrology. And I go a little more specific on my podcast, on the Squared Astrology podcast. We're only a couple episodes in, but my friend and I are, we're getting through it. But anyway, I'm really just here to give you a way to think about different parts of astrology. And today, I want to talk a little bit about the ascendant, or the rising sign. If you go onto YouTube or go onto a website and read a description about your ascendant sign, it might be quite long. If it's like in the form of a video, I know Jewel Mayberry, Hannah's Elsewhere, there are a few really good astrologers on YouTube who do very long videos on the ascendant or rising sign. And the reason they're so long is because there's so much bearing on the ascendant. It's that sign that was aligned with the horizon, the eastern horizon, at the time of your birth. So it was sort of rising in the east, if that makes sense. And the reason these videos are so long is because there's so much bearing on it. It changes every 2 to 2.5 hours, the sign that's rising in the east, and it sets up your whole chart. It aligns, it forms the alignment of houses and signs. So just an hour difference may shift, one sign totally into the next house and give your entire birth chart sort of a different direction, a different character, because remember, houses are, they're accumulative. The first house is about the beginning, new beginnings, but also the beginning. It's represented by Aries. It's ruled by Aries, so it's young energy. It's kind of an infantile, moody energy. It's about the self without regard for the context. And then the second house is about the first and second house. The third house is about the first, second, and third house, and so on and so forth. And the 12th house ends up being very, very mystical, because it's everything all at once. So it can be kind of scary and confusing. I will say, though, I'm not an expert in astrology, but I can talk about the 12th house because I have a bunch of planets there, and it's in Capricorn, and those planets are in Capricorn as well. So, Capricorn has kind of a stoic, indifferent nature to it, and so I can talk about 12th house matters in that way. I find I'm quite good at that, but everything else, I wouldn't say I'm much of an expert on. Anyway, so yeah, there's a lot bearing on the ascendant, and so it's important to not only be aware of that, but be aware of whether or not your ascendant sign is the sign you want of the video you want to watch, or the description you want to watch if you want to learn about each house. What I'm getting at is, depending on where your ascendant falls in that sign, or where the sign that your ascendant is in is aligned, that will tell you, and I'm going off a Placidius chart orientation in this description. That will tell you whether you need to watch that sign or the ascendant sign video, maybe that fills most of the first house. So does your ascendant fall, does the sign that your ascendant in, rather, fall mostly in the first house or mostly in the 12th house? So, because usually when you talk about like Capricorn ascendant, then you assume Capricorn's going to be in the first house, Aquarius is going to be in the second house, Pisces in the third house, so on and so forth. But for me, it's actually opposite. My ascendant is in Capricorn, and my entire 12th house is filled by Capricorn. And right after my ascendant, right on that 12th first house cusp, right in the cusp, but right in the first house, Aquarius starts. So my Aquarius fills the whole first house. Pisces is in the second house, so on and so forth. So when I watched my first long description on Capricorn Ascendant, yeah, the surface level description of Capricorn Ascendant suited me quite well. You know, I can put off like sort of a cold and calculated and logical aura when I first meet people. Yes, I'm aging well and I'm gorgeous. You know, these are all qualities of Capricorn Ascendant. But when it came to the house descriptions, the Aquarius rising video suited me a lot better, because my first house is in Aquarius, my second house is in Pisces, my third house, so on and so forth, is in Aries. So, so look at where your ascendant falls within that sign. Look at how much of the 12th house that sign takes up, how much of the first house that sign takes up in a Placidius chart. And the one that has the majority of it in it, that's, you know, it's going to describe, that sign's going to describe that house, right? But whichever sign the first house is encompassed by, for the most part, that may give you a better picture of how accurate, you know, that rising sign video is going to be with regard to your house descriptions, you know. No, the ascendant sign is important. It's interesting. You know, you can't really choose how you show up in the world to other people, especially in unfamiliar situations. It's what you unconsciously project. And the houses, because the houses are important, more important than signs, in fact, you really want to know about the houses. You want to know which style of personality, that's the sign, which style of personality shows up in each house. You want to know which planets are in each house, because your planets are the parts of your personality. The houses are contexts in which those parts of your personality show up, are presented to the world. And pay special attention. A lot of people don't talk about this, but pay special attention to which houses are empty. Your empty houses don't have planets in them, which means there's no part of your personality that's in that context to be expressed. These empty houses are going to show you where you lack value, and probably what you're going to look for in other people, in romantic partners, in friends, and the family members that you click with more. They may have a chart that's very different from yours in terms of their house placements. They may have you know, planets in houses that you don't. They may fill that void, so to speak. You know, every chart is as it is. No chart is incomplete, but we definitely find people, and you know, when we're honest with ourselves and acting authentically, we tend to attract people who complement us, who give us things that we can't really provide ourselves so much. or that maybe it's not worth putting energy into those things because, I mean, that's part of the benefit from having relationships with other people, you know? So, anyway, the houses are really important, and you figure out how your houses are laid out by looking at your ascendant sign. And make sure you're looking at the right ascendant sign video, reading the right article. First, read up on just your sign, your ascendant sign, whatever style of personality it's in. But then, when you go through the houses and want to understand the houses more, look to see where your ascendant falls. Does that sign take up more of your first house or more of your 12th house? Because for me, as a Capricorn rising, 12th house, Aquarius rising video actually describes my houses a lot better. So, just something to keep in mind. Hope you enjoyed the video today. See you in the next one. Cheers.